are with another Coach's Corner. Why don't you go ahead and tell us who you are and what sports you coach here at university?
My name is Coach Roberts, Debbie Roberts, and I coach the girls and the boys bowling team and the girls tennis team at university.
All right. And Coach Roberts, I know that sometimes we call you Coach Roberts number three. So why don't you tell us why sometimes we call you that?
I am Coach Roberts number three because my husband, Preston Roberts, was the first Coach Roberts at university. And then our son, Justin Roberts, became the second Coach Roberts at university. And I was the lucky number three. So I am Coach Roberts the third, or number three.
And sometimes does that maybe cause a little bit of competitiveness between the three of you?
I don't know if I would say we had competitiveness per se between us, but we come from a very competitive family. We all, even when I first met my husband in college, we were always very competitive in everything we did, whether it was playing tennis, whether it was playing, what was it called? I'm trying to think of the board game. Backgammon, we played a lot. We just always liked to compete in everything. It just was part of our nature. His nature probably came from growing up with a father as a head coach and always being in an athletic environment. My competitiveness came from being in a family of 9 where we were all very competitive and loved sports. So it was just a natural thing.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you one thing I see because I know when I think competitive, I think I think me and my brother are always fighting over something. But to me, you guys are just so stinking supportive of each other. It's really cool, that. And I mean, I guess it's the way it should be, husband and wife and son. But no matter what, the three of you are always just so willing to help the the other one of the three, heck, anybody, not just, but especially the other one of the three, whether it's your husband or your son, or in their case, their mom or their wife, just to help each other out. I just think it's super cool that you three are so willing to do that. And like I said, for anybody really, but especially for one of the other Robertses. And I think that's super cool, and just how proud you guys are of each other. And I
Agreed.
know that we haven't gotten a chance. He hasn't been on Coach's Corner yet, but he will when Coach Roberts number two. I know you guys would have been really proud of him with this boys weightlifting season this year, because I know they should have had a
So
really good.
close.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
anyways, we won't. Right now, we're talking about
We'll
you.
save that for him.
Yeah, yeah. So you said that you coach bowling and tennis here at university, and how long have you been coaching those sports here at university?
This is my second year.
Okay. And how how many total years have you coached?
Only those two. And I never coached on a, I'll call it intramural per se, or community level. I was the team mom and obviously a head coach's wife for a lot of years and a mother of a lot of athletes. But I worked in corporate for over 34 years. And I actually started working when I was 11 years old. I worked in a family business and I worked through high school, through college, and went right into corporate America after college. So um, I didn't coach up until just 2 years ago.
But your background and what we were just talking about, which caused us to actually start this over, as far as the training, that to me um, gave you the background in coaching. They may not have called it coaching, but training is coaching.
Correct.
I mean, so
Correct. I
therefore,
mean, if you, being an athlete yourself, you never ever lose that desire, that dedication. So even when you stop playing sports as an athlete, you still stay involved in it to some level. So for example, I know one of the questions that that you had kind of put out there for us is what it, did we play collegiately? I had an opportunity to play tennis to help start a program out of state, but I was the youngest of the 5 girls, and my father and my mother were not keen to me leaving the state of Florida. So I ended up playing intramurals at UF because I went to University of Florida. I played intramurals there, and I continued to compete in tournaments. But you just always have that. It's in your blood. I mean, anybody who's ever been an athlete completely can understand and relate to it. It's in your blood. And then as, my husband graduated college and he started coaching, all of his athletes became kind of like our children. And, we kind of took them under our wing. There were people who actually, came from broken homes, and he and I helped those kids through and helped them to make it to college and to get their degrees. And we were just always involved. And then when we started having children of our own, it just was natural. I mean, we probably could have been asked, well, what if your child didn't like athletics? Would you have pushed it? But our kids all liked it. They each liked different things. So, and it just stays with you. So,
Right.
yes.
Definitely.
And then also the importance of balancing athletics, but also you've heard me, since you've gotten to know me, the importance of academics and focusing on your schoolwork and balancing it. Because even if someone is a diehard athlete and wants to go off to college, they have to be prepared to balance both or they won't be successful. They have to maintain those grades. And, it helps them to have the structure they need to be successful. So I won't go there. We'll be here all day.
Right, no doubt. And before you got to high school, what sports did you participate in, like in your Parks and Rec program and things like that?
I actually started swimming when I was 2. So swimming was my number one sport. I swam, I was a fish. My mom said I learned to swim before I could walk. And so I did actually swim. And when we moved from Virginia to Florida, the high school that I went to back in those days was 7 through 12. So I started swimming for the high school in 7th grade. And then they started a tennis program, and I went from swimming to tennis. Now, as far as doing other things, when I lived in Virginia, I rode horses. I worked, and I was a hot walker for polar horses. We were really into, we had a huge farm with horses, and I just loved horses. I mean, that was my life, and I swam like a fish. But other things I like doing, we did everything from, I never played on a baseball team or softball team, should you say. Swimming was the big thing. And other than that, just doing stuff for recreational purposes, in the backyard with the 9 brothers and sisters or the 8 brothers and sisters. We always were just going.
Right,
So.
right, until the street lights came on. Right. All right. And so you said in high school you did swim and then the tennis. And as a coach so far, what has been your most memorable moment so far as a coach?
Well, that would be hard because you take a lot of them to heart. Obviously this last bowling season with both teams making it, winning districts and going to state was huge. I mean, it's a very exciting time. And then qualifying for nationals. I mean, that's huge. But I will tell you, I cherish equally teaching someone the sport that's never done it before. To have girls who have never hit a tennis ball or held a tennis racket to learn the basic skills to then excel and be successful at that. And when you talk about bowling, you think about, the 5 junior girls who came out for bowling this year who'd never bowled, other than maybe with their girlfriends on a Friday night having a pizza and just doing it for fun, to then actually starting to get so wrapped up in it and practicing and competing, and then going and then actually competing and having an undefeated season and going and winning the districts and going to state. That is so exciting to see athletes learn. Now, obviously, some of the people who were on the bowling team that were juniors, um, they are in other sports, so they came with that competitive nature, but they didn't know anything about the sport, but they learned it, and then you also feel success and happiness for those people. Like I can talk about, I'll use Julia Yates as an example as a senior. I mean, she hadn't bowled. She only learned a few years ago, and she worked so hard to improve her game and do so well. And, still has a chance at, going and competing in Vegas this summer, and still has a chance to go to nationals that hasn't been canceled yet. So, those are all exciting moments, they really are. So I can't really put my finger on one. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Um, and as an athlete, is there a memorable moment as an athlete that sticks out to you?
Um, you know, I think the lessons learned probably stick out to me more than possibly an accomplishment, because some of the lessons learned I've carried forward as a coach to share with my athletes. And it really, the biggest lessons learned for me is no matter what level of skill you have, if you don't balance it with the right mental game, you won't be successful. Um, you may be successful to a point, but you really can't achieve your full potential unless you're balancing both. Because very quickly, um, if someone does something to trigger your mental game and gets it off balance, no matter how much athletic ability you have, you're kind of you've set yourself back. And unless you're mature and you can really work to overcome it and reset that mental game, you set yourself up for the risk of failure. So I speak of that from an own personal experience in tennis. I have shared the story with some of my athletes, but I allowed opponent to get in my head, and I couldn't overcome. And I only needed to win one more game to win the match. And the more angry I became towards my opponent, the more out of check I was with my game. And I actually lost that match. And that was a lesson learned, that I allowed someone's actions to affect my mental game, which in turn affected my accomplishment in the end of that match.
Okay.
So, but
Right.
I will tell you, as a parent of an athlete, two memorable moments. Um, Coach Roberts' second, winning the national championship in football. Now I'll start crying as a parent now, not as a coach. But being there and watching and knowing his journey and everything he went through, and for his teammates, there was nothing greater. And I'm so thankful that I didn't miss being a part of that. And then our older son, he won a national championship when he was a sophomore, but his senior year, he was actually, he won it his sophomore year because the team won it, and he was, on the team. But actually his senior year, he was competing, and we had the opportunity to go to Blaine, Washington. We couldn't stay there for the final round because the other Coach Roberts II was graduating from high school. So we had to come back for graduation. But being there and being a part of it with him as well in golf, they didn't win it, but being a part of that experience, those are moments I'll cherish forever, being able to be a part of it as a parent of an
Right.
athlete.
Right. Um, let's see. And you've already answered that question. And and you may have already answered this question as well, but what is one thing you hope your athletes get from participating in a sport that you coach?
I really hope they take away a the bigger picture, maybe is the way to phrase it. Yes, yes and no. They may have improved their skill in that sport. Some of them have a lot of talent to begin with. Um, I hope that they find the ability to have a better mental game, not just when it comes to sports. Obviously, they should practice it during the sport. But one of the things I was very big on was developing interpersonal skills and really working together with others and being able to work through issues as they arise, good, bad, or indifferent. Life's going to throw us curves when we least expect it, but always being able to balance that, because that was so, so important to me. When I first started coaching and I met with players and parents, I shared that with them. I shared with them that I really wanted to help to round their children, not just as an athlete, but as a person, and give them that opportunity to grow. And, I don't ever cut anybody, as you know, and my reason for doing that, not doing that, is because I really feel like every child, regardless of their level of ability, they deserve the opportunity to be a part of a high school team and be a part of sports and have that experience. And really, I had some people on the team that, were very shy, and to watch them open up with their teammates and really start to show and develop those interpersonal skills and be more comfortable to communicate with their teammates, I felt was really special.
Okay. Um, and what's the best part about working at university? What do you feel is the best part about working at university?
I think that it's a good school. I think that it was an eye opener for me, since I had not really been involved at the high school level in so many years. It's much different than what I was accustomed to in high school. I'm sure it's much different than most of the coaches, right? But I do feel like university is a good school, and I hope that in the years ahead, it will further develop the relationship with the community and the boosters to strengthen. Being a newer school, even though 10 years seems like, oh, it's so old, it's really not. It's still a school developing itself, right? Um, but I feel like the kids who are athletes there, I think we're fortunate with the group of kids that we have from the community that feeds to the school. And I think that there's a lot of potential still to come for the school.
And what is one thing that you would like to say to your athletes or your parents or those people that are watching this? What's one thing you'd like to say to them?
I'd like to tell them to continue to focus on the positives, to get engaged. For parents who haven't been actively engaged, whether it's because of work or other demands, I encourage them to enjoy every minute they can with their children during the high school years, because time just goes too fast and you can't ever get it back. So, personally, as a parent, as I mentioned, I was in corporate for a lot of years. And I do feel like, even though I did participate in some things with our daughter and our son, who were the older two, I felt like time just started to slip away. So when Coach Roberts II was in high school and started the ninth grade, I made a commitment that I was going to get involved and not miss anything, because I felt like, oh my goodness, all of a sudden it caught up with me, and now my baby is starting high school, and before you know it, he's going to be gone. He's going to be off to college. So I encourage parents, again, to be as actively involved as they can and support their children. To the athletes, I would say realize that being able to be a part of an athletic team is a privilege, and to continue to embrace that privilege and represent your school to the best of your ability. And don't take it for granted, because again, yes, it will be gone before you know it, and those years will be behind you, and you don't want to ever regret missing something you had an opportunity to give your full potential to.
I totally agree. Yes. All right. And is there anything that I didn't mention that maybe you were hoping I would, or anything?
I can't think of anything, to be honest. No, sir.
Okay.
I think it's
Well,
great you're doing this. especially during this crazy time. I just encourage everybody to stay positive. We'll get through this together.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Stay positive, and hopefully we'll be back at school beginning of May. Hopefully.
Yes,
So, well, thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
you as well.